Good morning or good afternoon, depending where you are. And thank you for joining me. This is Psychic Brunch with Inbaal and Laura. But to those of you who can count up to 2, you'll have noticed that I'm here on my own right now. It is because Laura's lost her voice. So she's got to keep her voice rested while I take us through this psychic brunch. If you don't know me, my name's Inbaal. I'm a psychic, tarot reader, and witch. Happy to answer questions about any of those topics. And I teach tarot. On a Tuesday, I've got my psychic development with Inbaal show here on the Bigfoot Outlaw Network. And on a Thursday, I tend to catch up with Laura and we chat about all manner of mystical things that are going on. If you're watching us on Facebook or on YouTube right now, you can send us messages to screen, and that's what they look like. Nilda sent a message that says, "Good morning, Inbal, Mark, and everyone else. Blessings." And of course, on the news of Laura's lost voice, she says, "Oh no, feel better, beautiful." I let her know. I hope she's watching. Hi, Laura, get well. So if you'd like to send a message to screen, if you want a little reading, I've got the tarot cards with me. If you want to share something, a mystical experience that you've had, go right ahead and let's talk about it. We have a message here from Mark, who I think sent it before we even went on air. And he says, "Good morning, you lovely ladies. I hope that you're both okay and that Laura had a lovely time in Scotland." It would seem that Laura's voice is still having a lovely time in Scotland. It didn't come home with her. Hello and welcome everyone else. Please remember to like and subscribe. Fabulous. So we start with a bit of, I suppose, sad news for the community today. One of the original high priestesses, Patricia Carrotha, who you may have heard of if you're interested in Wicca, has passed over yesterday, this morning, crossed over to the Summerlands, we call it, at the blessed age of 96. And she was one of the original people whose images were used in the old books that would speak of Wicca. I wonder if I've got anything with her pictures. No, I actually don't think that I do, embarrassingly. But if you're familiar with old pictures in Wicca books, you will recognize it. I'm going to pull up a picture to share. Patricia. I saw her speak at Witchfest. I don't know, about 20 years ago. She was extremely knowledgeable and a formidable priestess. She was the high priestess of the Sheffield Coven. So if you know this picture, for example, that is Patricia Carrotha, or if you know this picture. And opening the morning with an announcement of somebody sort of passing over the Rainbow Bridge and starting the next life was sort of quite a somber start to the day. And it made me think that maybe we could talk about all the awful things that we sometimes see in the tarot. So if you're a reader yourself, and I know that, you know, at least some of you are, or if you're somebody who is interested in the tarot, in astrology, in any kind of predictive method, you know that sometimes you have to give the bad news. You have to say, well, he's not coming back, or she's not going to get better, or they don't want to be friends with you anymore. Sometimes you have to say the awful things. So I want to look at some of those cards that represent like really awful things And I also want to share with you a few of the ways that I deliver difficult news. It's something that I spoke about with my mentoring client just yesterday, about how I'm a really blunt person. And so my natural inclination would be to say it sort of really straight in the face, but with the understanding that everybody's different, and what is bad news to one person could be, good news to somebody else. So you just have to sort of come out with it. So I'm going to read a few messages. We've got a adorable little reading request as well, and then we're going to go through a few of the awful cards. Let's make this morning about the awful cards, with Laura being sick and Patricia Carruthers on her way to meet her ancestors. It's a good morning. It's a good morning for that. So Mark is greeting Nilda. I love that. And Nilda says, beautiful, I would love a reading. It just seemed that my family doesn't get a break. What message does Spirit have for us? So I'm actually going to use the Rider-Waite-Smith deck for this. I feel like, especially if we're going to talk about the difficult cards, and this is a question that's literally about a difficult topic, isn't it? The family that never gets a break. Let's have a look. Let's get right into it. There's something about the Rider-Waite-Smith that is just so in your face that I love it for things like that. Sorry, I lost a couple of cards. I'm going to go fish them. Sorry, I hope that angle wasn't too unflattering. And I don't usually sort of refer to jumper cards when they jump out of the deck, but in this particular case, we have a pair, we have a couple, and I thought that's very interesting. We have the King and the Queen of Swords. Both of them jumped out, and the swords are about thinking, overthinking, and they can also relate to judgment. So I would say, before we even sort of pulled cards specifically to your question, there is some judgment going on where other members of the family, the extended family, instead of helping out, prefer to sort of sit there, and judge and think themselves as if they're very clever and they know better than everyone else. So what message does Spirit have for your family? Wow. Okay, the judgment is off the scale. Look at that. Bah! Right? Look at that. Look at that literal sort of judgment seat. So this is the Justice card, and the Justice card literally judges. We have the Ace of Swords, super, super judgy. And we have this powerful, beautiful Queen of Wands who does not care. And I feel like the judgment around you is partly because you just get on with your life and you don't give anybody any explanation. You don't have to tell them why you do what you do, what it is that, that you're aiming for. Like it's absolutely not their business. And that is, that is where it comes from. So your strength, your ability is confusing other people. Would I say that your strength is bringing you bad luck? Absolutely not. Would I say that your strength is inviting challenges that show you and everybody else that you are capable and you can overcome everything? Yeah, maybe a little bit more this. I can see a couple of messages coming in on Instagram. So the Instagram messages don't actually come to my main page, but I can see my dad saying Ahlan. And I can see Yitzhak saying Shana Tova, Shana Tova. It is the Jewish New Year, so New Year blessings to anybody watching, and Chatima Tova. already. Never too early to say. Mark has a little giggle and says, I've never read tarot. And rest in eternal peace, Patricia. Divine Feminine Warrior says, I'm so glad to gain the knowledge that you ladies are providing. Thank you so much. Lucianne says, hi, sweetheart. Hello, darling. I was thinking of you today. Spawn says, good morning, all you beautiful souls. Blessings to you all. Blessings. Lucianne says, blessed be, Patricia. Blessed be. Nilda says, I love the way you are, Inbaal. I respect people that are straightforward. Thank you so much. I don't really know how to do it any other way. Mark says, death isn't and never will be the end. Ask our buddy Fran. Right. So we lost a very, very well-loved friend in the psychic community. Spawn says death is just a level up. Absolutely. Nilda says, in November, my mum makes 1 year of passing. I am at peace. I feel that it's never a joy to lose a parent, and the most that you can hope for is having that peace, because no matter the relationship that you had with your parent, it's still the first person that was there for you and that created you. So it's a devastating loss. Peace is, that's like the gold standard, and there won't be a day that you don't think of her. And when my mom passed, I went to the local nurse here in the UK. It's free to access medical professionals, and the nurse said to me, you'll never not think about her. And the nurse said, my mom is now gone 20 years, and I still think of her every day. And this was 10 years ago, and I can confirm that being a year into that journey is really just a start, because every day for the rest of your life, she's not going to be there in a physical way, but everything that she instilled in you, the values that she gave you, that still lives on in who you are. All my sympathies, Nilda. A year is great. You made it through a year, and that's huge. Nilda says, you are so right, but I don't care. I love it. You can 100% face whatever is coming at you. Lucianne missed the beginning. Is Laura okay? Laura lost her voice. Laura is okay in everything except for voice. So we had like a quick staff meeting and thought that, on the one hand, her presence just decoratively would enhance the show no end. But on the other hand, we came to the management decision that for her to be in bed is a much, much better location. Nilda says, I am not afraid of facing things head on. It's othered. I pray for all of them. 100%. That's it, because you're not in the wrong. And whoever gives you a hard time for being yourself, it should really sort of go and hang their head in shame. Spawn says to Nilda, condolences for your loss. Big condoles. And Mark says, oh, big hugs. I get why, etc. And of course, knew about your mom. Nilda says, I feel your spirit. God bless you. And about mwah. Thank you. Lucianne says, my beautiful close friend Sai passed away a couple of years ago, but I often have clear connection with him. I love seeing him smiling in the otherness that he now rides in. Right? So I feel like some people take to the afterlife better than others. When my granddad went, when I was like 18, 19, he would afterwards like come in dreams, and you could see him around corners and you could hear him. And he was like so on board with that kind of life that it was, it was almost inspirational. So it sounds like your friend Sai is, is very much of that team, and, big love and lots of condolences for your loss. Mark says, Laura lost her voice. Should have still been here. It would have been fun. You could take Mickey out of her without her having a good back. Laura can do one eyebrow raise, and that'll be wittier than anything I could come up with. She would have about wiped the floor with me if I tried to take the Mickey out of her for not having a voice. Lucianne says, wise decision. Rest up, Lady Laura. So these are the messages that come up until now. I am going to start going through the different tarot cards and focus on the awful ones. And we're going to have a lot of fun with all that. Look at what we've got at the top. So we're going to look at those difficult ones, what they represent, and we're going to try and find like a grain of joy in them. And Nilda adds, could we do a pray for those who have passed? Also a healing pray for Laura, Mary, and all that needed. That's a wonderful idea. She says at the end of the podcast. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take that message and put it on the side so that I've got it for the end. So we're going to do a beautiful spiritual moment for all those that need. Lucianne says, oh, absolutely. He was a psychedelic traveler on this plane. So he's well at ease where he is now. I'll bet he, as a living person, that, this existence was a little weird for him. Mark says, just to clarify, we do miss and love our red one. I know, she's the best. Spawn says, honey and ginger is good for healing. Laura, get well soon. I think she's on it. I'm not... I've not checked on her in a few moments. Wait. I'm just checking. I have like different connections over on that side. Yeah, she's fine. She's fine. She's gone to bed. I believe she's gone to bed. Right. Let's start rolling through some of the most devastating tarot cards. Now, if you read for yourself, or if you're reading for somebody else and you're face to face, they can see the cards. Not the case if you're doing phone readings, much preferable at times, but they can see the cards. And so if, for example, they see something like this, 9 of Swords, we've got somebody sitting up in bed in the darkness, their face is in their hands, and 9 huge swords are hanging over them. Sorry. What do we see here? What do we think it means? So this is like nightmares, overthinking, imagining the worst. This is sort of perhaps having the kind of bullying that's keeping you up at night, having the kind of concerns that are keeping you up at night. It could be an inability to pay the bills, although that might come with, say, some Pentacles cards, or it could be that somebody at school is always sort of pointing and laughing. And this card is really, really difficult because it shows you a picture, like an image of your mental devastation. Now, it's kind of similar to the 10 of Swords. So I'm going to talk about them together, even though with the swords, we really have a lot of whoppers. We have quite a few that are, hard to find good meanings for. So here in the 10 of Swords, its friend, we have a figure lying face down with 10 swords sticking in their backs. We have a sash, a red sash that could represent life. In other places that we see a red sash, it would represent life, vitality, vibrancy, right? We have like the purple sash of the world, and I'm looking for the sun with all the happiness to compare the sashes. Where is the sun? So we have the sun with a red sash there, and they are so alive and they're so vibrant. And here we've got the life kind of seeping out of this person. So, and this definitely sort of comes for very serious bullying situations. This would come if, say, your boss had forged your signature, or, you know, there's lies being told about you or your people, where you just cannot find the way out of that kind of mental headspin. So with a pair of them, there's a way that I present it to clients that explains the meaning of those cards. And, you know, it doesn't take away from the awfulness of them, but it takes away from how awful the reading could make them feel. And always use the same joke. It's always the same joke. If you had a reading with me, you must have heard that. And this came up, you must have heard it before. I always go, the bad news is that it's all in your head. The good news is that it's all in your head. These cards stand for mental strife. What is tormenting you, what is torturing you, is how you feel about the situation, how you think about the situation. Whereas, for example, let's say that here in the 9, when I was saying that it could be that somebody at school is pointing and laughing. What if you walk into school and that somebody is pointing and laughing and you just don't care? What if you pretend that they don't exist anymore? So that kind of represents how the situation is still under your control, even though you feel like it's not in your control. Let's say here in the 10, where we've got like that difficulty with dealing with perhaps somebody lying about you, perhaps somebody forging your signature. With the lying, as long as you stick to the truth, look at that. We've got the sun rising. It's always darkest before sunrise. And with actual, like, you know, I'm trying not to use the word fraud because I don't want like the algorithm to sort of have a problem with me later on. But if something happens that can be proven in front of, say, a law enforcement professional, then direct yourself into doing taking the practical steps that are needed to clear your name, rather than staying in this headspace. So it's important to remember, not just with these swords, but with all the swords, because the swords have really got quite a few stinkers. It's important to remember with swords that it is in your head. Some awful cards. Let's find some more awful and or difficult cards. Obviously, the heartbreak card, the 3 of Swords, right? So here we have a broken heart. How do we find a positive meaning to it? So my ex, who was, you know, a very flawed individual in many, many ways, but had a really good way to refer to this card. He used to refer to it as lancing the boil. Lancing the boil. So as you're stepping away from a dreadful situation that might be represented here, it could be that somebody broke your heart romantically. It could be somebody that broke your heart because they turned out to be not who they thought they were. There could be somebody that took somebody else's side in an argument against you, and that was heartbreaking. So this heartbreak, and you feel awful. Of course you feel awful. Heartbreak is no fun for anybody. We have a heart here in the rain, lanced by 3 swords. A positive way that we could view it through, a positive lens that we could view it through, is that this person who broke your heart showed you exactly who they are. They showed you who they are so that you don't have to keep wasting your time with somebody who doesn't have the same definitely, like, fantastic qualities that you do. For example, let's look at a couple of messages that came. And we've got Nilda, so gorgeous, saying, I'm sending kiss and hug to all of you. So blessed for this beautiful spiritual familia. Mwah. The energy is real on this live today so much. Thank you. Oh, that's really beautiful of you to say. Thank you so much. That's really kind. And you are a part of it. You are the reason. Mark says, when I've had readings with you, I actually don't recall ever getting the 9 or the 10 of swords. Maybe I'm lucky. I'll tell you what it is with you. You're not an overthinker. You take action. You see a situation, you take action. These 2 cards are overthinking cards. That's when you sort of go back and forth and say, maybe it was my fault. Maybe I'm a bad person. Maybe there's something wrong with me. This one says, nothing will ever turn out right. And you're an action taker and you're an optimist. So those cards won't relate to you at all. They'll have nothing to tell you because you don't even speak their language. Spawn says, thank you, Nilda. Mark says, things for nefarious means. Yeah. So Spawn is saying to Mark, I only went for one reading many years ago, but I was told they could not do a reading and was asked to leave. I still have no idea why. I love that. Could you just leave? That is funny. I mean, I'm sorry. I know it's not funny for you, but it's like weird funny, not funny, haha, even though I'm ha-haing. Mark says, broken hearts, take it out, kick it around, put it back in. That will deal with it. Or learn to laugh without the need for that kind of compassionship, and then let it come along later. See what I mean? A broken heart cannot break you if you don't allow it to go in. And Mark, who does readings, says, that's strange, buddy. I'm not sure what that could be for. It could be that, it could be for many reasons that are, of this world, that the reader saw you and maybe you reminded them of somebody they didn't want to be reminded of, or that they weren't having a good day, or that they just sort of felt like the energy wasn't right in that moment. So that's all sort of very of this world, or it could be for, genuine spiritual reasons. Maybe they saw you come in and, it was somebody that could see spirits, and they could see you sort of coming in either with a malevolent spirit that they didn't want to deal with, or with a spirit that indicated to them that they don't want to talk with them. So yeah, it's much better if you ask why in that moment, but presumably in that moment you're so shocked that you're refused service in a psychic reading that that you're not really sure how to question it. Colleen is here saying good morning. Mark says, I've never refused a reading except when I've been really, really ill, but otherwise, no. And Spawn said, good morning, Colleen. Right, Colleen. So what we're doing, we're looking through some of the awful cards, some of the difficult cards, some of the challenging cards, some of the cards that come up and you think, Should we reshuffle? So I'm looking around for a couple of the major arcanas that a lot of people are uncomfortable with. Guess which ones? I'm looking for death, obviously. I'm looking for the Tower, and I'm looking for the Hanged Man. And then we'll have a little chit chat about them. I'm pulling out all the ones that are like not fun to see, but they're not really like awful. And there's really a lot. Do you know, when I see a spread, there's devil. When I see a spread and all the cards are like positive, they're like really nice, I always say to the person, you know, there's a lot of awful cards in the tarot. You just didn't get any of them. So let's start with the devil, a card that I like very much personally. I think it's cute, but a lot of people will have either the upbringing or the personal experience that makes them hear the word devil or see an image of Baphomet, which is sort of quite a typical representation of the devil, and they immediately think that can't be good. So the devil card is kind of a reflection of the Lovers card. I should have pulled out the Lovers card to sort of really give it justice, give the story justice. Because the devil and the Lovers are very similar cards. Can you see how in the Lovers we've got the angel, and then we've got the two figures, masculine and feminine, and the devil we have obviously the main man, yeah, and we've got masculine and feminine figures, so they're very similar. And one of the main meanings of the Lovers is choices. What do I choose? What way do I go? Do I go for true love, or is it better if I go traveling and, you know, just sort of enjoy casual relationships in the meantime? So this is a card of choices. Anything is possible, anything is open, whereas the devil is also choices, but they might be much more, shall we say, low vibe choices. So that could be sort of choosing, you know, what addiction you might want to go for, or which I don't know, shadowy energies you may want to give yourself. So Spawn is actually helping us by saying, I've always associated the devil card with temptation, not evil or bad. Exactly. So that is exactly it. Temptation is kind of, it's still a choice. It's still a choice that you can take or not take, but temptation suggests that the choice is, shall we say, not necessarily best for you. Whereas with the Lovers, we think of it as choice rather than temptation, because we're looking at more uplifting, empowering choices. So I personally kind of love the devil card because I have like a real joy in saying no. So I've always been like a no drugs person, like zero. I stopped drinking like completely, entirely, maybe 16, 17 years ago. And I have this sort of real self-empowerment in saying, I don't do this. This is not for me. You know, do you want to come, say like an evening with the other moms in the village? And I say, no, I'd rather stay at home. Not because I don't love the other moms in the village. They're ace. They're ace. Good sense of humor, you know, good talkers. They're intelligent. But if I don't want to do something, I won't overthink it. I won't overthink it for hours. I'll step right forward with the saying no, because the devil is my friend, and I know that it goes maybe you'll like it, maybe you'll enjoy it, but I know that he is talking out of his backside, and actually I'd much rather be with the lover's energy. I'm making myself sound very saintly. I'm certainly not. There are loads of other things. For example, my personal devil would be with eating, with sweeties, where I can stick to eating healthily for, for a long time, but sooner or later. So everyone's got their devil, but it's in the devil, the two figures are chained to it. So it could represent a compulsion. It could represent a mental obsession that you might have. And that's cool because you still have a choice. You have somewhat of a choice. So I personally love the devil, but I understand if you hate it. And we've got the death card. That again, I think a lot of people don't like it because even though it doesn't exactly represent death as such, it is an ending. And we have two big cards of endings. We have the death card. The death tarot card represents an ending on the inside. When you change, when you stop being a specific personality type and you start being another. And we have the Tower, which again, I think is a source of fear to many, but the Tower represents changes on the outside, moving house, changing career. Now, the reason that the Tower card is sort of slightly feared is because it usually stands for unexpected and possibly even unwanted changes, but they're not necessarily negative. So those two change cards they're quite good predictive cards. Like here, we're not talking about choices anymore, and we're not talking about temptation anymore. When these cards come, don't think I'm weird if I say things are happening. The change is coming. And in the case of those two, I would say to a client, forewarned is forearmed. The change is coming. Your landlord is coming back from Australia a year earlier and you're going to have to evacuate your place. A change is coming. Your personality is going to have to grow and evolve from being dependent on somebody else, and it's time to sort of start getting stronger, practicing getting stronger. So those two cards represent changes, and at least by drawing tarot cards, you know that those changes are coming. They're not surprises. So Nilda, very helpfully, she's with me on this one. She says that death and tarot cards are positive cards for me, right? For me as well. So if you're somebody that thrives on change, that finds change exciting, exhilarating, empowering, then you would love them. If, on the other hand, you're somebody that values stability, then much less so, then you won't like the big change cards. And the opposite is the case for the Hangman. Now, the Hangman is not actually a negative card at all. We have a figure here hanging by a foot. He's definitely like alive. He's not just alive, he's receiving enlightenment. We have this glow around his head, so he's receiving spiritual enlightenment. I think the reason that a lot of people don't like the Hanged Man is because the name, if you're thinking of a man that is hanging, you're thinking, oh, he's not having a good time. It's not, it's not the top of his ambition to be hanging. But for somebody, I think like me and Nilda, that likes to be active, that likes to sort of be on the go all the time, the Hanged Man represents a block in the road. It represents a period where nothing changes, where nothing can change, when the things that are changing behind the scenes, so you won't be aware. So when the hanged man comes, let's say you're wanting to date somebody, the hanged man comes and says, hold fire. It could indicate that the person that you have this crush on is still with their previous partner and they are about to split up. You might not even know about it, but they're about to split up. So you want to hold fire. And then when things change, you'll know about it. The hanged man can come when you're looking for a job and you sort of draw blanks all the time. All this looking for a job is not working. And for some reason, success evades you. And then you get the hangman. It says to you, hold fire. It will happen. But the changes that will come are brewing in the background. So the job that is perfect for you, now there's somebody doing that job, but they are starting to find something else and they will soon leave. And then the position that you want will be advertised, and then you can go and, obtain it and enjoy it. So I'm not a fan of the hanged man, not because he reminds me of hangings, but because I do not like waiting. If you're somebody that values stability, you might like it. You might not mind just sort of not taking action for a little while. Let's look at a few messages, and then we're gonna have a look at just a couple more, maybe slightly less awful cards, fewer casualties, but that are still like probably nobody's favorite. So we've got, first of all, Colleen says no sightings of my missing cat. Let's have a little look. Where is Kitty? Still fine, still alive. Somebody's leaving her bowls of milk. She's not gone indoors, so keep looking. She's still outdoors, but somebody's sort of keeping her in their field or in their yard. Mark says, oh, by the way, I've now got 10 sets of tarot. Weirdly, 2 are a thought. That's a nice number. Oh, poor Kitty, says Mark. Hope she'll be found soon. Got the message from Mark still saying, I still remember the pagan pig. I can't believe it's been that long. It's an age almost as old as, yeah. Mark says, I've had the death card many, many, many times. In fact, I've lost count how many times. And tower is maybe a handful, but I'm good with that. Yeah, but you've cheated death. I don't think it's going to come for you because you haven't played along with it. Spawn says, the devil was a twisted image of pagan Pan created by the church to install fear, Holy Trinity, 3 crones, like many pagan figures that were adopted by the church to appease pagans. I don't remember the exact history of the sort of Baphomet. I've read up about it, but I don't remember the exact history. But is there some connection to Assyrian gods? But yeah, a lot of what we have today, both in modern paganism and around sort of Christian iconography, will have its roots in ancient Babylonian imagery, in ancient Roman and Greek imagery, where the gods were, very much a part of life. Nilda says, it says the negative is moving out if you choose to make the change. Yeah, make the change, exactly. Colleen says he will not go indoors. He's a feral cat, and I rescued and brought him to the farm. The only indoors he has is building a house for the cats. That's heated for winter. I hope he comes home soon. Right. So that's good. So what I saw fits exactly with what you know, that he's not gone indoors, that somebody sort of put him a bowl elsewhere. So hopefully he'll just sort of find his way. Does he know your voice? Does he recognize your voice? Can you go shouting in the night? Oh, so let me just sort of pick a couple more cards. I don't want it to be all the swords, but the swords really are an abundant, fertile ground of tough, devastating, difficult cards. Let's look at this one. Let's take so you see how this one is not even making the cut because I don't want to look too much at the swords. This one is awful, but it's not making the cut because I want to go with more devastating ones. So there's plenty of awful. The 10 of Wands is a good one. That's another one where a client may see it and think, what is going on here? So we have a person carrying 10 wands all at once. All at once. Who's the supervisor here? Why don't we have somebody supervising this situation? And this person is burdened. They're bending under the effort of carrying too much. So the wands, obviously, are cards of actions. And this is sort of very, very simply when you've said yes to too many things. Remember how I spoke about the joy in saying no? Not that I enjoy disappointing anybody, but if something doesn't suit me, I'd much rather say no rather than go, yeah, all right, I'll think about it. I will not think about it. So here, this person is a people pleaser. People pleasers watching, please have a look and tell me what you think is important to do here. So first of all, if any of those jobs are, can be delegated, if any of those jobs can be delegated, delegate them, right? So this is what you say to a client if they get this card. If there's anything that you can just not do, how about going to sleep without cleaning the whole house? The dirt will still be there tomorrow. How about doing the simplest, quickest, easiest cooking you can? How about doing your homework without giving to, without sort of trying to aim for 100%? Try to aim for 85. It'll still be good. So this card is a heavy card, and it physically shows you how hard the person finds their load. But you can see that they are in charge of their load. So if this is somebody that just sort of enjoys overdoing, let them have a little think, maybe with you, maybe with the reading that you're doing for them, a little think over what they can change within their control to not be so overloaded. And finally, which one of the cups shall I take? Do you know, I'm going to take, because the cups are confusing anyway, I'm going to take the one really tough Pentacles card. So here we have two figures, one of them a leper, walking barefoot or semi-barefoot in the snow outside of a church. It's a very tough image, the Five of Pentacles, and this card represents hardship, challenges, disasters, things that are out of our control. And that's a really important distinction that we've got, right? Some things are within our control. Here with the Five of Pentacles, there are things that are outside our control. This is global pandemics. This is when all the banks collapse, like an economic downturn. This is the outcome of war. And even this card can have a positive aspect to it, because it's very important to notice not just the foreground, but also the background. In the background, we have a church. We know that there's somebody in because the lights are on. If you go and knock on the door of that church, they might have something for you, a cup of tea, a blanket, protection from the elements. So when this card comes for you, for a client that you're reading for, you can say to them, help is at hand. And that's an important meaning of this card. Help is at hand. You might not have control over the global, the huge conditions, but you do have some control over your own personal conditions. Help is at hand. Go and ask for help. Now I'm going to read the final few messages, and then we're going to join together in praying or sending spiritual energy to everyone that needs it, as suggested by Nilda. So first of all, let me go through the last few messages. Colleen says, yes, I've walked and called him for days. He knows his name and my voice. Charlie. Nilda says, last, a crazy lady attacked my granddaughter 2 weeks ago and the cops are looking for her. Will they find her? It's a lot for a 13-year-old to go through. It's awful. Oh, was there a background to the attack? Are there sort of bad families in your area? That's so bad. And Colleen says, oh no, I'm so sorry to hear that. Let's see. Will they find the attacker? They're going to find pictures of the attacker, but the actual attacker will evade them. So I don't know if you yourself can ask around. Maybe somebody knows, because I feel like the cops don't have enough information and enough jurisdiction to really sort of go door to door to find that person. So somebody from your end will have to sort of get involved. Mark says, sorry, I was trying to be YouTube friendly, so I didn't put as I was going would cause trouble. Yeah. I know what you mean. And Mark says to Linda, that sucks. There's so obnoxious people in this world. Fingers crossed that they catch the person in question and they are brought to justice. Absolutely. Nilda says, Mark, my daughter wants to hurt her really bad, and I pray the cops get to her before my daughter does. Yeah. I get that so much. Yeah, as a mom, there's nothing you won't do. And with, on the same topic, Spawn says the collapse is coming faster than many think. Deep down, many feel something big is coming, isn't it? Isn't it just? Mark says, well, folks, this is the last 5 minutes, so thanks to Inbaal for this morning. Get well soon, dearest Laura, and everyone else. Keep safe until next Tuesday. We shall see each other then. Nilda says, not the best neighborhood. That is devastating to have that on your doorstep. Lucianne says, have a beautiful day, one and all. Word says, hello to you too. And Mark says, same to Lucianne. Spawn is sending thanks and love and light. Wonderful. So for those of you that are still here, I'm going to put up Nilda's message from before, and whatever you personally take for prayer or for raising the energy or sending your spiritual vibration, let's all take a deep breath, uncross everything, no crossed legs, no crossed hands, so that the energy flows. And let's put our hands together and send blessings and healing to Laura, to Mary, and to all who need it. I'm going to breathe light into this blessing. And if you need some of this energy, don't be shy. Step in and claim it. It's yours and it is for you. Everyone sending energy. Rub your hands, clap your feet to disconnect from this. And I will see you hopefully with Laura here next week. Have an amazing day. I send you lots of blessings and love. Bye.